let's turn to Indonesia real estate financing in the AI era. Please welcome to the stage my favorite lady as the CEO and founder from Pinhome, Dayu Dara Permata. Stage is yours.
Thank you, Saya. Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu. Very glad to be here, standing in front of the last men and women standing. I'm here between you and your early dinner. Maybe you're shopping at Gandaria City, so that's pretty tough. But I'll try to deliver this session that sounds very heavy, but I think this is something that we have to deal with as Indonesian consumer, as people with aspirations to own a home, to own our own property. The topic that I'm going to deliver today is trust, AI, and ecosystem thinking. I'll tell the story from the point of view of consumer. I was a renter turned buyer, owner, and investor, and now entrepreneur in real estate. So I'll give you that point of view, not just the institutional view or like the corporate view of this topic. But I also want you to realize that for us to be able to advance and have the best and seamless experience in real estate, this all needs to happen, that we need to have trusted AI-powered ecosystem. And the institutions that's going to win us, the consumers, are the ones that can combine the three. So I represent Pinhome. Oops. I'll try to figure out the technology here. There you go. Working, sorry, Miss Ria. So, introductions to Pinhome, we built world's first end-to-end property transaction platform where you can search for property for seller rental, you can transact, you can find mortgage options or other alternative financing like rent and own. And then after you own the property, you could also order property services. You can do on-demand property services, book service providers from Pinhome app. Anybody has not heard of Pinhome before? Maybe before I start? Amazing. We have 9.5 million monthly website visits per month, and we see millions of them here in the room. So we have 5 million app installs, more than 2 million listings, and we're #1 property technology startup in Indonesia. And we're now available in all of Indonesia, 96% of Indonesia's market. The only 4% that's left out are the ones where we have hutan lindung on all those beautiful forests, so no properties there. And we partner with 40 over banks and financial institutions. So now, when we talk about trust AI ecosystem, what does it mean and why does it matter? And this is basically what it means. Trust means because home purchase is the largest purchase an individual, a company, or corporation, or an SME could make, you need to deal with trusted counterparty, right? You don't want to deal with a lender that has no license. You don't want to entrust your home certificate to just anybody, right? You want to work with trusted banks. You want to work with trusted property agents, agencies, platform, because then you'll put in your personal information. It's very large financial decisions. Secondly, you need AI. And if we look at 3 years ago, maybe this wasn't even there, right? But fast forward 3 years, look at where we are. Everything is AI. AI powered, AI native, AI first. And I will tell you that it's only gonna be even more important in real estate. And the reason why is because if you think about AI, it's all conversationals, right? You used to search for websites. You used to search for contents by clicking many websites, but not anymore. Can I ask you a question by raise of hands? How many of you have gone to second page of Google search? Anybody raise hand? Nobody, right? We no longer swim through contents. No, we want AI concierge to put those informations on a silver platter. And that's the same thing that's gonna happen in real estate as well, right? We want AI to summarize. What are my matches? Which properties fit my budget and specifications and needs and room requirements? That's going to happen very soon, not too long from now. Lastly is ecosystem. Like Unlike fast-moving consumer goods where you purchase something, let's say you buy cotton buds. Who would think twice about buying cotton buds? You just put it on your cart and you check out, right? It's just one seller, maybe like $1 worth of transaction, but real estate is $100,000 or if not more transaction size. And you will have to deal with so many stakeholders, from property agents, property owner, property developer, banks, appraiser, and notary. And so you don't want this to be so scattered. You have to find every single stakeholder. So the winner of the industry will be the one that stitches all the stakeholders together, right? And which means that they need to all be also online. And that's kind of the biggest challenge. It's not the biggest balance sheet would win the bank, that's the biggest. No, it's the bank or the platform that can stitch all these needs and all these stakeholders together as much as possible, as many of the stakeholders as possible. Now, I want to bring you to some of the trends that's going to happen, and at the end, we'll kind of summarize what it means for the players, but also what it means for consumer. I'm going to start with structural changes post-COVID. Like COVID was not too long ago. Indonesia has been and is still one of the world's most attractive property markets. Okay, we have 200 million productive age population. 68% of our 285 million populations are productive, like more than 18-year-old, and they are in the workforce already or getting ready to be on the workforce. There's only about 40 to 50 million homeowners. So that means there's 150 to 160 million people that are productive but haven't owned their first home yet. The second thing is that the urbanization is still accelerating at rapid pace. If you remember, Jakarta was Jakarta in 1970. And that was like 3 million people, 3 million city population. And it became Jabotabek in the late 90s. And in the late 2000, it became Jadebotabek. And today we're talking about Jadebotabek, Puncak, Cianjur. And today, if anybody kind of heard the last report from UN, Indonesia is actually the largest mega city globally with about 43 million population. Like, let that sink in. It's the largest megapolitan. It's even larger than Tokyo, larger than Dhaka, Bangladesh, with about 37 million population. Tokyo is about somewhere at the 33 million population. It's really, really large. And that is because we develop very rapidly. Now, the infrastructure is expanding outward very fast, and then also people from rural areas are going to the cities to look for opportunities. But still, there's almost 13 million housing backlog, and that is the number that the government adds up by looking at house with less decent conditions, people that needs housing. The number is still very high. The growing middle class is there, but the real estate challenges remain. And so I think that the way that to solve this problem isn't just by building so many homes. It's not just by building 3 million homes every year, because we need to know where that should be built, at what price that should be built. If that's not done correctly, then it's just gonna be a house that's not sellable, and people are not looking to purchase those homes because maybe it's built somewhere very random at a locations with no infrastructure, or at a price that people cannot afford, or with specifications people don't want. And another structural changes, and this is still here to stay, is that people are going companies were remote during COVID, and post-COVID remains hybrid. Like Pinhome remains hybrid, and it's been, this is our 6th year of previously exclusively remote and now going hybrid. The demographic shifted, the way that people shop, the way that people spend their money. They have very different pre-COVID and post-COVID behavior, right? Infrastructure developments also redirect demand. Rising energy and material costs, we know this, and this has been a pain point the past 1 to 2 years. The recent, and what we, just a month or two ago, right? Pertamax went up to about 16,000, diesel went up to about, or north of 20,000. Construction costs is increasing by at least 15%. All those like the bricks, the cement, all the materials that contribute to property real estate that becomes input of real estate is more expensive. So real estate is only gonna get more expensive from here. And lastly, the AI and digital infrastructure. It also fuels some unprecedented demand and new opportunities, whether it's warehouse, it's data centers, digital infrastructure, and e-commerce infrastructure. There are sectors that are also permanently reshaped. For example, commercial offices, we talk about the hybrid work. There's less office demand. Office is no longer a space to work. It's a space to connect. So it's no longer cubicles and closed spaces. It's more like meeting rooms and spaces for people to meet and interact. Retail also reshaped because of e-commerce. So less and less of front-facing and more of like warehousing enablement, less dependency on physical stores. Basically the food size, the meter square requirements shrink. And then the residential also has very different requirement. People seek for better and more quality housings, not just a place to sleep and eat. It's also a place to work, to be productive, to live like a very good lifestyle, wellness, build your mini gym. So that's kind of the first trend. The second trend is mortgage challenges, and mortgage continues to be challenges for Indonesian market. Mortgage to GDP ratio, which is a metric that measure how well and accessible mortgage is for a country, for Indonesia is still very, very low, less than 4%. It's less than what the ratio we see in India, for other emerging market, especially in developed market like in Singapore or in the US, where the number is more than 80%. So structural barriers is about affordability. The transaction cost for mortgage is very expensive. So you buy property, there's a lot of different fees, agency fee, agent fees, transaction fees, the taxes. But when you also do mortgage, you have to pay for life insurance, fire insurance. That's already 1 to 3% of the transaction cost, right? And that's affordability issue for most people. Interest rates. When it's a high interest rate environment like today, so Bank of Indonesia just, I think, has been consistently increasing the interest rate, and that's for good reasons, right? But now it's 5.75 BI rate, and so mortgage rate is also is also spiking now. Documentation, like the paperwork required for a mortgage-related process is just very vast, right? And most of those documents are scattered, and it's paper-based. Even the certificate is still, the property certificate is still being transitioned to be digital. Underwriting, also very stringent. The informal income, still banks, if not most banks, if not all banks, still require fixed income. So if you're like very well off, financially literate KOL, or digital workers or gig economy workers, and you earn very well, double-digit rupiah salary, you still are not qualified for mortgage because banks require you to have fixed income every month, right? And then lastly is the financial literacy. Like people just don't understand enough the benefit of mortgage. They're still cautious about it. Some are too aggressive about it, so it requires some balance and understanding from the consumer. And because of that, one example of the problems that I've already mentioned earlier, higher interest rate, that leads to banks being more selective, and that makes customer more cautious, and that makes approval becomes harder. And this just proliferates the issue how mortgage is still a very challenging financing segment in Indonesia. I want to shift over to mortgage takeover. So let's say you have mortgage, so what? My problem is solved. Not really. You go to your floating year. Let's say in the first 1 to 5 years, most people probably do fixed interest period for 3 years. So that's the period of your mortgage installment where the interest rate is set fixed by the bank. After that, you go into floating period, and all of a sudden the interest rate becomes like 12%, 13%, 14%. What do I do? My installment went up so high by 30%, or maybe even 40%. That is the reality of a mortgage customer, right? And that's why there's for the ones that are financially literate, we are lucky, because then we know, okay, I'm in my floating period, what do I do? How do I make the installment more manageable for me, right? So borrowers do take over for their mortgage. I don't know, anybody has ongoing mortgage installment today? I know you don't want to think about it. That's okay, forget it for a moment. But this is information that might come handy. So now consumers that are more financially literate, which is also one of our goals at Pinhome, we want customers to be more educated. They understand that in floating period, the way that you can manage your installment better is potentially to move from your origin bank to the destination bank, to the new bank. And for customer, it means you can reduce your monthly payments and then you improve affordability of your mortgage. For banks, it also forces bank to think about retention, to be better, to provide better service, and potentially cross-sell products. This is an example of solutions that we made in Pinhome, which is to enable takeover between or from origin bank to the destination bank. And this has helped many customers basically to make their mortgage more affordable. And I'll talk about alternative financing, which we also explore. And the reason why we explore alternative financing is for example, non-fixed income customers that are not mortgage eligible, right? Because banks always require their potential mortgage borrowers or client to have a fixed income, payroll, salary, payslip. And so some of the alternative financing exists, but I must admit, this is all still at pilot stage. So none of this has scaled. So for example, rent-to-own. Rent-on means that you rent with the goal to own the property. You probably pay a deposit fee in the beginning, and your monthly rental fee is higher than typical rental. But eventually you will own 100% equity portion of the property, at which then you will then do the akad towards the end of your rental. So that model is being tested. We are also testing this model. Shared ownership is you owning property together, you build it together. We've heard some examples like rumah menteng, flat menteng, where 10 families decided to co-live and co-build and co-live together in that property. Embedded financing, meaning that making the financing embed in the transaction. So if you do mortgage application, the fire life insurance, you don't have to think about it. It's already provided, so you don't have to look for separate options offline or in different platform. Developer financing, you're paying installment, but not through bank, via mortgage, but directly through the developer themselves. And developer do this because they want to provide us, and it's an option for interest rate-free financing. For Sharia reason, if you don't want to have a mortgage process because you want the tenure to be very short, let's say 3 years, 5 years, developer financing is available. And there's also digital lending, for example, borrowing from peer-to-peer loan provider and then use the money to buy property. But all these examples are still very pilot, small scale, hasn't scaled at the rate that's needed by Indonesian consumer. Why? Because the ecosystem is still very, very fragmented. All these players are quite small and they don't work and talk to each other. So the winner, who's going to be the winner, and what kind of characteristic that a winner has? We believe at Pinhome, and I know this is not going to be a 5-year journey. It's probably going to be at least 10, 15 years journey, right? It's the one that connects all the journey, from property to financing, property search to financing to insurance to legal, and then at akad and renovation. Most of the properties, when you purchase it, it's not immediately livable. You still need to spend money for renovation, interior design, etc. So if there's a player that can just stitch everything together, customer won't have to look for all these options in like 20 different platforms and knock on doors one by one. That's going to be the winner. And AI should be the brain, because having so many stakeholders in one transaction is so overwhelming. Do you know the average number of chats for a customer before they purchase their property? Guess how many? Number of chat bubbles that they send, maybe through WhatsApp or Telegram. And the number is staggering, it's 6,000 chats. So before a customer makes a decision to purchase, they would send 6,000 chat bubbles to various different stakeholders, whether it's to banks, relationship manager for mortgage-related discussions, to property agents for sure, and not just one, not just two, it's 15 to 20 property agents to find the property that they need. Like imagine the cognitive load of making that decision, it's just insane. And we just deal with it because it's once in a lifetime purchase. But we wouldn't say no if there's an option that can make our life easier in one connected journey. And I'm gonna need another 1 or 2 minutes to just go to the closing of this. AI will change everything. Historically, property search is just very connected. You do search here, you do mortgage to there, you do transaction somewhere offline, you move in, you deal with all service providers for the move in, and then you order services. What we believe and what we're heading towards at Pinhome is to connect everything with AI, from property search to mortgage to transactions to move into services. We are not yet a native AI company. We're not AI first company, but we know we've done our mistakes where, we have search and it's just regular search with filters and sort, and we built our AI chatbot separate. It just doesn't work. It cannot be like I search manually and then I ask AI somewhere else in different button. No, your search needs to be AI powered. And that's what we learned firsthand, because we did do that exactly. AI will reshape every stage of the journey, from discovery, financing, transactions, and after move-in. I'm going to show you a visual of this, which is essentially, today real estate platforms are built around listings. They search and then agents and forms. Going forward, it's going to be a conversation. A conversation of you asking AI, I want a house near international schools in BSD with budget 4 billion. Or, I am selling my property for X million, and this is the location. You send a geolocation, AI will create the listing for you. You don't have to fill in fields. You don't have to, create descriptions manually and upload the pictures and explain or type in the address. We have to be helped by AI so that journey that's not right now, it's still like 5 minutes journey to upload all that information, can be a 10-second journey of somebody typing in, hey, I'm selling my 3-bedroom house in Besda City, and so on and so forth. And then AI will just extract that information and then make that listing live. And just like that, your listing is in 10 seconds discoverable, right? And then you can, this is shareable in social media with very nice template. I think this is where AI is heading to, just enable discovery, but also delivery of property in the eyes of customers within few taps. And what we should prepare, this is a closing. Every player must become proactive. So we need to create the demand before the demand realizes that it is needed. Because when you only do that when the demand realizes it's needed, that means somebody else has done it. Then you're not the first mover. It has to be personalized, and that's what AI is about. It's personalized to you. You can name them. You can train them to talk like you, to behave a certain ways. Like, hey, I want you to be a devil's advocate for me. Don't just say yes and don't give me just affirmation. It has to be ecosystem driven, especially for industry with so many stakeholders. It needs to be API enabled, so it integrates with many available information, maybe land banks information. Maybe zoning information, maybe approval permits, notary, appraiser, and then it has to be AI enabled for the reasons that we've already talked about. So the future is to be present before customers even realize they need financing or they need any solutions. So that's the closing: trust, AI, and ecosystem. Thank you very much.